So many thoughts following Kyle Dubas' firing of Mike Sullivan yesterday. So many different directions that my brain went to upon first hearing it, and then just kept going all day long. In the end, I was really left with one above all, and that's that I hope that this was done for the right reasons. Good morning to you. Good Tuesday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. The firing became official at 9:03 a.m. yesterday with the team's press release, and it was stunning. And I mean that in every sense, not least of which is that the news never broke or was even hinted at anywhere else. This was one of those rare occasions where the team actually makes 100% of the announcement. Speaking for myself, I had no clue at all. But then I'm not sure that I should have. I'm not sure that I should have been wondering if just a few days after both Dubas and Sullivan took turns saying everything's just swell, that I'd be thinking that this would pop up. I don't know that any of us could have. On top of that, nobody who's listening to a program called Daily Shot of Penguins needs me to revisit everything that Sullivan did, achieved for the franchise, for the city, in his nearly 10 years here. He becomes, after a time, one of those guys you're convinced could be here forever. And doubly so, to be honest here, when he goes through the kind of a season that he just had, and the team just had, not just him. And even then, the one thing that would reflect most poorly on the coach, that of course being that they would just fold up and collapse down the stretch, not give a crap. They went 10-5-2 in their last 17 games. That's a pretty nice closing quarter for any team, much less one that had nothing to play for. Lots of people would get credit for that. He should get the most. So what was it really that went wrong? Well, you're welcome to listen to the entirety of Kyle Dubas' press conference. It's 23 minutes long, and it's worth it. It's pretty good stuff. I don't know that I've ever seen him have to try as hard as he tried. But he's usually pretty proficient at these things anyway. It came across as sincere, it came across as organized, as he always is, and it came across as genuinely respectful of Sullivan, not just platitudes on the way out. I found this to be particularly compelling.
From my vantage point here, my full intention when coming into the job was that I thought it was a great opportunity to work with one of, if not the best head coaches in the league, to continue to give the team a chance to contend and then transition it through back to contention. And I think what I've learned in the 2 years is that there's a reason why it's essentially impossible and has not been done, where a coach has led a team to winning and being in contention and through a transition all the way back. There's a number of factors that play in on the relationship side with the players, with the staff, and that make it very difficult to do so. And I think that two things can be true: that someone can be a great head coach and that they'll move on to become a great head coach on their next stop, and it could also be time for change here. And I think that was the conclusion that I'd come to. It had been something on my mind during the season, but I have great respect for Sully and just want to see it through to the end of the year and then have discussion with him at the end of the season before having discussions with him and then going through that together. So that is where we're at today.
And that's where I was left. That was my other main takeaway here. That I would hope, there's that word again, that this wasn't about person versus person in either direction. That it wasn't about GM wanting to have a coach he could control, or for that matter, vice versa. I would hope that it's not at all similar to the only other coaching replacement he's ever done as an NHL GM. That being in Toronto, where he hired Sheldon Keefe to be his coach, a very, very young Sheldon Keefe in his mid-30s of the Toronto Marlies. That's the AHL affiliate of the Maple Leafs. Then Dubas got promoted, if you can call joining the Maple Leafs in any capacity a promotion, to Toronto. And before long, he fired his resident, very veteran, very decorated head coach, Mike Babcock, and replaced him with Keefe. He had his guy, he had his younger guy, he had somebody who owed everything to him. And then on top of all of that, Dubas went on at length in this press conference yesterday about how there's no real evidence, at least not in this century, of coaches going from a Sullivan-type career path and then embracing and succeeding in some sort of rebuild with the same team. And I find that to be both plausible and understandable. If you've won at the highest level of your game, and it still does not get any higher than the Stanley Cup final, never mind two of those, then holding your breath to see how Valtteri Puustinen handles the second power play unit, it doesn't seem like the same thing, or the same job even, never mind the same challenge. If Dubas succeeded in sniffing that out, and I will remind that Sullivan has spoken with nobody yet, so there is another side of this whole story to be told, but right now all we have is the GMs. If Dubas was able to see things, to maybe hear them, to maybe just pick up on from being around the team the way NHL GMs are, and from there he was able to confront Sullivan and say, hey, do you really want to do this? And ultimately Sullivan comes back to him, yeah, I'm not so sure that I do. Do you have a problem with me? Maybe I should go somewhere else. Yeah, maybe you should. Okay, shake on it. And then you have your amicable, quote-unquote, parting of the ways. If all that's the case, then I'd give a lot of credit to Dubas. But if it's the case that he wanted his current guy out because he'd rather have a Keefe type in place, and for anybody who doesn't know, Keefe is gainfully employed as the head coach of the New Jersey Devils, so I'm not implying that he'd bring Keefe here. But if that's the case, yeah, you see what I mean? There's still a lot to learn about this. And I already began finding out more even as the day went along. And so there's going to be a lot more to say about it over time. What I'm going to say in the moment is best of luck, best of health, best of everything to a really, really good coach and a really, really good guy who was the consummate professional among all coaches and all managers that I've covered in Pittsburgh over the years. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Bill Boyd, who asks, DK, my question, you having covered the team for all of Mike Sullivan's tenure and having a close working relationship with him, do you get any chance to say goodbye or thank you or have any communication in a case like this? It's funny, Bill, you've inadvertently read my mind and what's been kind of not even at the back, really at the forefront all day, because you want to not be, one of, 250 or whatever it would be texts that he'll get from all over, including texts from people who would mean infinitely more to him, or, texts that might be about his next job. So what I'll usually do in these situations, and what I'll do in this one, is wait a little bit and send something. And it won't be long because these are busy people. It won't be some drawn out, super sappy, overwrought thing. It'll just be a refresher, really, of things that I had told him over the years about how much I appreciate his professionalism, how much I appreciate the way he's carried himself in both good times and bad. First couple of years were pretty easy. After that, maybe not so much. I appreciate the thoughtfulness with which he would answer my questions. And those of you who are readers of mine, the written columns that I do, you'll know exactly what I mean, because I would let him write half of them, basically, with some of the incredible quotes that I would get. But how I'd also appreciate that even when he was not mad, absolutely livid with me for asking a certain question. Some of you will remember our exchange that made it onto camera at Madison Square Garden when I pushed his last button regarding the playing time of Jeff Carter, that the next day was always a new day for both of us. As I said in the opening segment, Bill, I remain very much open-minded that this move was made for the right reasons, that Kyle Dubas was being completely forthright, as, by the way, is the only thing I've known Dubas to be, in his depiction of how it went down. And I'm also certain that I will never cover another coach/manager quite like this one. He will be missed. I appreciate, more than you might know, Bill, that question. I appreciate everybody who listens to Daily Shot of Penguins. We'll be back with another one of these tomorrow.